Baby, let's go! It's time!
Cincinnati, we gon' rise and up. In the jungle, we unite and up. Trippin' orange and black and white. All day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Now who gotta move rockin' on? Now who wanna move crossing on? Now who wanna move out on? If you got stripes, then you let the city know you rock 'em. Yeah, we got 'em. Yeah, we fought 'em. Like that black and orange up on 'em. Single bottle, never stop it. To the beast and on 'em. Who they rockin' with the diamond stripes? Flossin' on the ring. Cincinnati, she's our queen. We gon' show the world who king. Orange in the day, black in the night. Stripes in our veins.
Welcome to another episode of Bengals and Brews. We do have Jake Liscow here today, boys, and I'm going to bring him on. But I'm reading this message about I need to turn something off, so it got me distracted.
What do you got to
Yeah, that's new, Jake. I don't know. I will have
I've never
to check
had
that
to
out.
connect my social medias to join a stream before. It's very strange.
That's new, so I will have to check that out. Because usually it's like, hey, once you're on, you're on.
Yeah, and I use StreamYard. We use StreamYard. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
not like
definitely
I
new.
don't have an account or anything. You know, it's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, that's definitely new. So we'll have to figure that out. That's when we need Houday Joe on. He's our tech guy. But so, everybody, how are we doing? It's Friday. You know, Jake's been sick. Greg, you've been cutting grass again at work.
No, I've been weed killing all day at work and watering the plants so hopefully they don't die this weekend in the heat.
Iceman, can we hear you now?
I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Is the volume too low?
Oh,
There you
there.
go.
You just popped in. It just
You
popped,
popped in.
I literally didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You hit a button or something, Jeff. Come on.
I didn't touch nothing.
Chop, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. I just got my about 6 hours of sleep after getting off this morning. I'm feeling great. I got a Red Bull in my Bengals and Brews koozie.
Not
Let's
a Four
go.
Loco?
No, goddamn no. I ain't even. Mm-mm.
And then the reason that everyone's here, it's Jake Liscow from Locked On Bengals. He's absolutely. And if you're not following at Jake Liscow on Twitter, what are you doing? If you're not listening to Locked On Bengals, what are you doing? What's up, buddy?
Thank you. Very kind. Not much is up. I got to go do some Friday shopping today. I just got back. I was traveling. For those of you that watch the show, you saw me do an episode out of a hotel room late last week. I got sick while traveling, and then I got home and I've been sick, and I haven't, bought food or anything since I've been home. It's been really scraping by the last couple of days. So I got to take care of some life things today, but outside of that, things are good. It's June.
And I hope you feel better. And we're getting closer
I
to
do
football.
feel better. I do feel better. Yeah.
We're getting closer to football, so I hope that helps. And you know what, Jolly? That's very nice to say. Our
Hey.
favorite Bengals player. Yeah, suck it, James Rapine.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. He won't even come on. Well, he did come on the show. Never mind.
I was going to say, he was on our show like 2 weeks ago, so
Yeah.
we really can't say that. We love you. But no, Jake, I figure while we got you here, and if you only got a certain amount of time, let us know. No worries. Obviously, you've been sick. You've been out of town and all that stuff, so we fully understand that. But having you on, I figure we just got to start right away with the big free agency bomb after a couple days of sitting around not knowing what was going to happen. Orlando Brown. Was that on you? It wasn't on our radar. Was that on your radar anywhere before it happened?
No, I mean, as all of Bengals Twitter was aware, I was heading out of my house for a date as that news broke. Like, we just finished recording our episode, and literally 5 minutes after we were done recording it, I DM'd James like, you got to be kidding me. And he's like, what? I'm like, I sent him a link to the news, and like it was literally we had just gotten out, because usually we hang out and like we're doing our editing and whatever, we're talking for a few minutes after we finish recording, getting the show uploaded and everything. We're like, I'm like, I gotta go, man. Like you got, and he's like, I got it, it's fine. So he did the Orlando Brown reaction by himself, being the trooper that he is, and he has to do everything for his own, Sports Illustrated stuff as well. But yeah, no, not on our radar. I don't think really on the Bengals radar, right? We've all heard them talk about it until maybe a day or two before it came to fruition. I don't remember who we were talking to. Maybe it was Steve, director of pro personnel in the Bengals scouting department. He was telling us about it. And, somebody had come to him or he went to somebody. I don't remember the direction of the communication, but it was like, hey, what do you think about Orlando Brown? If we could get Orlando Brown, you into that, that idea essentially. And you've probably heard the story by now. And obviously they were into the idea. Frank Pollock was excited by the idea. They get the deal done for, compared to the other tackle deals, way cheaper than you would expect. And like the rest of media, we didn't see it coming. And that's the way it works sometimes. And that's the way this free agency really went. Just thinking back on it, it's really interesting how much things did not go according to plan, to the point where people were like mad at us. They're like, you guys know what we're talking about. Like, well, all right. No, they tried to re-sign Von Bell. That didn't work. He got an extra year than what they were offering. So they signed Jermaine Pratt instead. They got a younger player. And I was surprised. I mean, I assume that part of that is that the market for Jermaine Pratt didn't materialize the way he thought it would. The market for Hayden Hurst did materialize. Obviously, they didn't go that way. I think they would have signed Foster Moreau. At least that's the way things sounded from Foster Moreau's perspective on the Adam Schefter podcast, had he not gotten sick. And I know that didn't work out. And he signed a deal with the Saints, right? Or did that
and he was at practice last week, like actually getting some reps in. That's amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's sweet. Foster Moreau, wish him all the best, right? Wish it would have worked out, but more than anything, wish him all the best. And then they pivot to Irv Smith. So, like, what we've seen from them over the last couple of years is these constant pivots in free agency where they've been light on their feet. Players are coming to them now. So that makes things easier. I mean,
so do you think Jonah Williams is going to pivot to right tackle?
Yeah. Right. I mean, I do. I think if you listen to what we talked about on the podcast yesterday or today, we release it the night before, right? So if you listen to what James and I talked about yesterday, he's going to be there for mandatory minicamp based on what we've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone believes that he will be there for mandatory minicamp. Now, if he doesn't show up, people can come yell at me and tell me I'm wrong again. But it's like, we're not just saying it to say it. It's
$12 million he's going to lose.
What's that? Yeah.
Over 12 and a half.
Yeah.
Well, for missing mandatory minicamp, I think he gets fined. But Jesse Bates 8 fines last offseason for not showing up, and who knows it? They might have even excused it for. I don't know. Maybe he paid the fines. I have no idea. Like I don't think we know about team fines that
this feels a little different, doesn't it, Jake? Because
it is different.
We were kind of saying Jesse knows the system. He's staying at the same position. He's able to kind of do that. That wasn't even me. Like one of you guys said that the other day, and I was like, "Oh, that's a really good point."
Well, I think that's also
Jonah's having to move to right tackle. I mean,
he's played right tackle.
Yeah, but it's been a while,
but he's played right tackle.
He's at a very high level. Right tackle.
Like, I'm not worried about Jonah Williams moving to a new position. That's like not my.
Those reps could help him. Is kind of what I was going to get at. The reps could help him because he's still looking to get that big payday at the end of the season.
Reps are always helpful.
Yeah.
Hey, well, let me ask this: Isn't Jonah Williams? Is he still rehabbing that knee, or is that 100%? Is he ready?
We'll find out next week. Well, I guess in 2 weeks is when we'll end up finding out, because he'll be there for mandatory, but then maybe he can't work yet. But he's squatting 500.
I saw they did that 4 squats.
That's
knee is pretty good right there for 500. Yeah, I think he's all right.
I would say if LC is moving the way LC is moving coming off the ACL, hopefully Jonah's also moving pretty well coming off of what we understand to have been a more minor surgery. Not that any surgery is minor. You're always cutting through stuff and there's always scar tissue happening and all those things. But you hope Jonah's doing okay at this point.
He needs to get here to Cincinnati and drink some of that water down at Paycor, because the way they heal up after that, Joe Burrow, LC out there working.
That's the Ohio River,
baby. Get some of that water.
And he would be working with that Ohio River water and the great Bengals training staff, the great Bengals rehab staff. If he was not in the situation he's in, it's unfortunate that it is what it is. You understand why it's happened. And I'm somewhat empathetic to him. At the same time, I also understand the frustration with folks who are just like, just show up and just play out your contract, right? I understand both sides of that. I think he is going to show up. He is going to play out his contract. He'll go in there and compete with whoever he has to compete with. I agree with all the people who think that he is the favorite to win the job. I disagree with the people who think that Jackson Carman has somehow earned the job. I don't know if anyone actually thinks that. I don't know how you could possibly make that proclamation, I guess, before training camp has even started, before the preseason is, there's not been a competition yet, period. So, we'll see what happens there. I think there will be a bit of a competition, but
yeah,
Jonah's been a pretty good left tackle for most of his career. Even last season, despite a few bad games, I think he was still pretty good for the most part, despite what people will tell you. And having played right tackle before, I think it should be a good transition for him. Might take a couple of weeks, but I'd be pretty confident if he's your starter at right tackle.
Yeah, I think Jackson Carman might be our starting right tackle next year, not this year.
I mean, if he has it together, right? I mean,
Right.
We're projecting a whole lot off of one good playoff game in the snow when the entire offensive line looked good.
So I gotta pop this up because it's a super chat from Rowdy, even though it's not a question for anybody.
That
It's
goes
for the
straight to
booze
you,
fund.
Dale. That's
Yeah,
just straight to you.
$9.15.
You know what? See that
That's gotta be
915
That's gotta be like that buys you 2 4 locos or something.
or
That's,
915 connection.
Yeah.
there
Chuck
you go.
Sizzle, baby.
Burrow,
Chuck Sizzle.
well, Burrow to Chase and Higgins. Like
That's it.
Rowdy's our guy who lives in Clemson, so he's got our
That's
inside
115.
source. So
I know which one of those is his favorite number.
So Jake, my question, I know we're probably sick of talking about this. I think it's safe to say, I mean, Duke Tobin, I think he made it pretty clear. Burrow's not going to be asking for any loans anytime soon. I think that's safe to say Burrow will be taken care of. But my question to you, Jake, is if you were a gambling man, how much, or like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very confident, what are the chances T gets signed before the season starts?
I right now am probably like around a 3 or 4. I'm not very confident that gets done. I would love it if it gets done.
Right.
And maybe I'm making way too much out of who his agent is.
no, I don't
Bengals-
think
No,
that's
no, you're not.
No, you're
The
not.
Bengals have never gotten a deal done with David Mulligana.
Never.
I think that T. Higgins would like to stay in Cincinnati. I think he likes playing with Joe Burrow. I think he likes playing for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that Zach Taylor has made that a very player-friendly locker room. I think the culture is great. I think those guys are as close as they say they are. David Mulligana is still T. Higgins' agent. David Mulligana is going to get T. Higgins' money. And wide receivers get paid.
Is
So-
that true? He's never worked out a deal with Cincinnati?
The players he's represented, has been a couple. The most notable is Jesse Bates, but there was
Right.
somebody before that or at the same time, and I can't remember who it is right now. But it might also only be those guys. Let me see if I can find it. Well,
But regardless, like he's a very tough agent to deal with. He wants them to get the top dollar, and he will go through a franchise tag. He'll go through letting him be free agent when that's your best chance to get top of the line money. So I definitely could see that as well. As Jake's looking that up when he's done.
That was the first player that they had an opportunity to get an extension done with, at least as far as players he currently represents. He also represents Jermaine Illuminor. Speaking of players who did not get paid
Right.
Yeah.
this offseason. And then the other Bengal that he represents is Joseph Osai. So that'll be one to watch as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the point with Jesse Bates was always with Mulligana is that they have to figure out how to get deals done with him because he represents 2 other good players on the Bengals roster that you probably want to see get extensions. And I think that still applies to Osai, even though they did just draft Miles Murphy, because eventually Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson are going to need replacing.
Well, one good thing about T is showing how he wants to be a Bengal is showing up
Yes.
for these non-mandatory practices. He's here working out. So that's, to me, I mean, I have no idea if that means he's going to sign or anything, but to me, that's good moving forward because most guys in a contract year won't show up unless it's mandatory. And T's going out there and showing up. So I think that's a good sign as far as, at least for this year goes. As far as contract, I have no idea. But as far as this year and being all in, I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, I think that is a good sign. I wonder if you could get these guys, truth serum, if that was a thing, why T decided to show up when he did. Because at first he didn't show up when media was there early in the offseason program. You guys might remember, but he was actually there during the week. He just wasn't there when media was there.
He's hiding from you guys.
Yeah, he was hiding from media. And Jamar said something along the lines of encouraging T to show up, encouraging T to get the extra work in because he wants to be on the field with T for as many snaps as possible. You guys remember that in the locker room interview with Jamar a couple of weeks ago?
I think Jay Morrison had that interview, I think.
There were, I think it was just at the locker room. So there was a media gaggle around him. So anyway, I wonder if Jamar was part of that. I wonder if Jamar was part of why TB decided to come back when he did, because TB also hadn't been there, spending time with his family. Probably true, right? Just not expected to be there. Also in the last year of his deal. So maybe trying to save himself a little bit. But they've all talked a little bit about conditioning this offseason. And Lorenzo making a good point there as you highlight his quote on the screen about the Bengals valuing team where they definitely value wide receiver more highly than safety. That is true.
Now, here's a kind of off of the offseason question, but how did you land the Locked On gig? I think I know part of it because I've been listening for a while, but you do a great job at it at the end of the day. But we're glad you're on it. But if you want to answer that, if not, tell Jolly to kick rocks.
Well, thank you. Joe. So James left Locked On Bengals. What, how long have I been doing the show? Over 4 years now. So he went up to Cleveland, right? Mm-hmm. To get an adult promotion job kind of thing. Like
Cavs after they lost LeBron. We talked about that when they had him right. A terrible time to.
But for him, it was a step from producing to being the guy, which has been a huge stepping stone for him. Obviously, like he's killing it now, right? Between Locked On and SI and his own YouTube channel, like he's made his own brand. He's doing great. But when he left, Locked On reached out to Joe Goodberry, and Joe and I have been doing little football projects together for 10 years, I want to say. Something like that. Maybe 8, maybe 9, maybe 10. I can't remember. And I was talking to Joe about Locked On, and he's like, well, it's funny you say that because I was going to reach out to you because I need somebody to do this with because I don't know how to do all the editing and I don't want to deal with all that stuff. And I work, and Joe being work an irregular schedule because he would work nights and he would work days sometimes. And so he needed someone to cover when he wasn't going to be able to do an episode as well. The initial thought was that, he and I would just kind of alternate or do a few shows a week together, do a few independently. But then we found that it was just really, I thought that I still really think we do a great job on Locked On Bengals. Don't get me wrong, but I think that nobody else does what Joe and I do in terms of the level of conversation that we were able to get to. And so whenever we have the opportunity to continue to work together, we do that. But that's how it started, was just I go back with Joe. Joe and I have done projects together for a long time, and he's obviously very, very popular. So he got the offer, brought me along for the ride, and then we started growing, and it's really taken off in the last few years as well.
Joe Burrow helps.
Joe Burrow does help.
Well, that's why James said he came back when he was on our show.
Yeah, that's right. He's like, I recognize that I went to Cleveland after LeBron left. This time I'm going to come back when the guy gets there.
Right.
And that was way better career decision for James.
I mean, look at the proliferation of Bengals podcasts in the Joe Burrow era. Yeah. There's it was Locked On Bengals Beat.
AC, man. AC's been in the game a long time. Since the jungle, those guys.
Yeah, for sure. But it was 5 or 6 pre-Joe Burrow. And now it's
26.
Too many.
106, 126. And the craziest thing about all of it to me, not to be really prideful or anything. The craziest thing to me about the Bengals following, the way the Bengals have blown up, is that as a Bengals daily podcast, we are consistently among the top 5 on our network. which covers every team.
That's awesome.
And that's like, and it's usually top 3, to be honest. I'm being a little bit modest with 5, but consistently 5, usually 3. Like in the draft season, we were consistently a top 30 football show in the United States, which it's the Cincinnati Bengals, guys.
Yeah.
Imagine saying that about the Cincinnati
I know.
Bengals 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's totally different. And I want to, you were kind of talking about Joe, so I want to take the moment to also give you guys your flowers on what you do for the draft. And I know you brought Sands on, and you've had different people that also help behind the scenes. Draft guy Jared, I think our buddy Santori's done that as well, help with some of the gathering of the data. But you and Joe have been doing that for years, and it is just another tool and another resource that I can speak for myself as a huge draft nerd. I love it. You guys kill it. But that's one of those things, you and Joe are so in sync on this stuff because you've been doing it forever. So that's one of those things that I love, and I'm glad Joe's back as well, doing this and making a little money on it this time around for him. So
that's right.
But I love what you guys are doing. And then getting into the draft, thoughts on Myles Murphy?
Yeah, I think at that point in the draft, it's a good pick. Myles Murphy probably should have been picked a little bit earlier. He has work to do. I do like Marion Hobby a ton, and I think he's one of the more underheralded coaches on this team, despite all the consternation over the pass rush last year, not getting sacks. They still got pressures. They weren't converting sacks as well last year as they did 2 years ago. So there was a little bit more scrutiny on that unit. You could also say that they didn't do enough for the interior defensive line, and all the pre-draft work. I was looking more on the interior defensive line than the edge, even though for really like the 3rd straight year, it feels like there wasn't a ton of depth on the interior defensive line. There weren't a ton of choices there that made a lot of sense. And look at what happened to Tommy Adewale going way later than expected as one of the freakier 3 techs in the draft.
Was there an injury or anything that come out other than he's just kind of raw?
No, just the NFL did not like his tape. He tested great. Still fell a little bit more than I think some people thought he would. Just talking to a few of the Bengals employees that I know. It was a little bit of a surprise how late he went. We talked to some of their scouts, some of their coaches from time to time, and so that was a little bit surprising. But some of the other ones are injuries. One that was shocking to me: who is the Texas defensive tackle? Not Coburn.
Oh shoot,
Moro or Jomo in the 7th round. That was injury stuff that just never really became public. But when you see some of those that are like 4 or 5 rounds late, you don't see him getting picked until the 7th round. Those are often injuries, and those always are disappointing to see. That's Trey Smith too, right? Like that's why Trey Smith goes in the 6th round.
Oh, he had an extensive injury.
It was a heart thing, right?
Yeah, that one was kind of known about. That's the thing, like when you're ranking guys too, and I know when you guys do it, it's like, well, that's stupid. You guys had him in the top. It's like, we don't get the medicals. People were outside of that. Like,
yeah, that's always the thing, is that you don't have the medical information, and that's always challenging. I was trying to find, if I could, the tackles. Like we were very high, obviously, on the Pitt Kalijah Cansey.
Yeah,
defensive tackle.
19th. Yeah, went 19th. To Tampa.
Right. So if the choices were Murphy, Brzee, Nolan Smith, and probably the next guy was Sam Laporta, I would
had conflicting on that, Jake, because we had Jay Morrison on, and he was like, the Bengals weren't really in on Mayer. And then the next day we had Dan Hort on, and he said, well, the Bengals are very much in on Mayer. And I'm like,
not ahead of Laporta.
But then when Zach Taylor talked, he talked about Kincaid and Laporta. So I'm like,
yeah, there was a world where the Bengals were picking Laporta in the 1st round. They would not have shied away from that in certain scenarios. And it was like a very edge case. Obviously, they didn't get there. They're bored around the time they were picking. We've discussed it on Locked On Bengals. I think I did a show with Joe talking about it. If the Jaguars didn't pick Anton Harrison, I think they would have picked Anton Harrison there. And then I think it was Murphy, Smith, Brzee.
Okay.
Was the rest.
I figured Brzee was in that conversation. Smith, and that's going to be interesting to watch those 2 careers, which between Smith and Murphy, because I think Smith clearly has the upside, but he's kind of an undersized guy. But he went to Philly, who they have the perfect example of that and getting the best out of Reddick. So
yeah, I mean, but I like the landing spot for Murphy too, working with both
Same.
Marion Hobby and Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. That's
will
a
he
pretty
be the
good,
first,
a pretty good group of guys.
I say, will he be the first successful in 99 number the Bengals have ever had? Because it's not been a very successful number.
Is it that bad?
Yeah. Tyler
I only
Sullivan,
remember
Big
like
Daddy.
I was going to say I only remember
Marcus
Big
Hunt.
Daddy. Yeah.
Marcus Hunt, Tyler Sullivan, Big Daddy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there's
Damn it, Jeff.
Hey,
Damn.
wait a second.
Hey.
It's not very good.
Fun facts with strawberry ice.
Andrew Billings was pretty good.
Jason
Billings
Buck was pretty good. I'm going to date myself before you guys were even born. He was okay on the '88 Super Bowl team, but
Manny Lawson was pretty good. All
Miles
right.
Murphy has a chance to be better than all of them, I think.
David Pollock.
Yeah, he only had one
Got
year
injured.
there.
But was really good.
Hurt. Yeah,
Was
I was
really
there live.
good.
Yeah, Pollock could have had a great career. I think,
What about Oliver Gibson? Oliver Gibson was good for the Bengals.
All of us are quiet because we don't know who that is.
The Bengals from 1999 to 2003 were 99 in all of those years. Came over from Pittsburgh, one of the few Pittsburgh Steelers to Cincinnati Bengals free agents. Had 4 sacks, 3 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 8 tackles for loss, 15 tackles for loss in his first 3 years with the Bengals.
He must have had the quietest amount of 3 and 4 sacks.
It was the 2000 to 2002 Bengals. Nobody paid attention to those teams.
Well, that's when I first started becoming a fan, and probably a lot of other people too, because of Chad Johnson and how fun he made things. And my cousin had season tickets, took me to a game, and then you're just hooked,
Yeah.
Hey Jake, the tight end. So I talked to James Rapine one time. He was on our show rallying around the Natty. I kind of brought up James acts like they're good at tight end and all that. I mean, don't get me wrong, we like Irv Smith, but the guy just couldn't stay healthy in his career. I wonder with these June 1st cuts. I mean, you look at the Jets who have like 6 or 7 tight ends on their roster. You'd have to imagine 1 or 2 of those guys to be cut. Just for example, do you think one of our tight ends is still playing on another team right now? Like that'll eventually get cut.
I'm surprised Mitch Wilcox hasn't been signed. Not that that's like making waves or anything, but
Right.
I would have expected the Bengals to have brought him back by now.
He was coming off an injury. Program. I guess he had a surgery, is what Dan Horde said, and
that is a good point.
And so maybe they were waiting till that's like healed up to have that conversation.
That could be. Maybe he wouldn't even pass a physical right now, right?
Yeah.
I am uneasy, as you are, Greg, with their tight end depth.
Yeah.
I want to shout out Crypt Keeper in your comments, who's been trying to get me to talk about Drew Sample.
No, he's doing that. He's doing that to me, Jake. You know this.
He's messing with Dale.
Yeah.
So we ignore it.
But Drew Sample is an okay depth tight end.
Right, yeah.
But like if Irv Smith goes down, they're back to nothing at tight end.
That's what scares me.
I've said this. The tight end room is basically the same as it was last year. You take out Hayden Hurst, you put Irv Smith in. I mean, it's the same, and which I don't think was great last year. So I'm with me and Greg have had this conversation on the show that we think there's going to be a tight end from someone that's on our team that the Bengals they're going to have to pick somebody up.
Exactly.
They have a few positions where they have some really difficult cuts that I think we talked about when we did our way too early 53-man roster look. And
DN, could we swap a DN for a tight end?
I mean, that would be interesting, right? But corner, back of linebacker room, perhaps. If you're talking about just like a filler tight end, a waiver claim. I was pretty excited for Devin Asiasi last year and was like sort of disappointed.
Oi. Sorry. That's the thing on the show we got. Every time I say
Asiasi.
Oi.
Yeah.
All right.
You guys can bring that on Locked On if you want.
Yeah, we'll give that to you. That'd be like the new woo. Go oi.
The woo is not my thing.
Yeah. The woo needs to die a slow, painful death or
just
death.
Just to be clear, that's James's thing. James likes to make promises on my behalf while we're recording, so that I have to look like the bad guy when I don't want to do them. Like the gritty, y'all remember when we had to do the gritty?
Yep.
The woo what else? There's one other thing. I try to say no to him, but sometimes I just
He's a
just
salesman. He
can't.
just talks you into it.
Well, he makes me into the bad guy. And then I get people in my YouTube comments calling me the boring hipster, and then I'm like, oh, well, God damn it. What am I supposed to do with that?
Damn it, James.
You run with it, man. We had one, which it's not even inaccurate. We had a comment from the show the other day. I don't know if you guys seen it, but this guy said 10 minutes of content and an hour of just rambling. And I was like, yeah, that's the title of the show, basically. Like I said, thank you for watching.
Reading the comments is generally bad for your mental health.
That was probably just about Greg and his love for A1 steak sauce.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's a good question for Jake there, Greg. You want to ask?
Jake, look, Jake, you already broke my heart one time when I asked you on Twitter, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? You had to say yes.
It is, because it is, Greg.
But
did I give you the additional, like the long answer to that question is I was raised Jewish and never watched Christmas movies. And so like, I just don't give a shit about what is or is not a Christmas movie.
Okay.
Anyway, you agreed with us. That was great. Go ahead.
Yeah,
A1.
awesome. You're wrong, Greg.
But no, anyway, Jake, let me ask you this, man. On baked potato, this is how bored Twitter was Sunday. It says, besides ketchup, what do you put on a baked potato, which I think I wouldn't put
ketchup on.
Exactly. I said A1 steak sauce, and my phone started blowing up. People were just coming at me left and right. No, you don't put steak sauce on a baked potato. Would you put it on a baked potato, Jake?
I can't eat baked potatoes anymore.
Yeah.
It's a sad story. I discovered I had a surgery to remove kidney stones about a month ago. And so I learned as a result of that foods that you shouldn't eat if you're a stone former. And potatoes, especially the skin on potatoes, is a food to avoid. But when I did eat baked potatoes, I was a twice baked potato kind of fan. Put the sour cream, the cheese, that sort of stuff in there.
Yep.
As far as barbecue sauces, though, I might hurt you again, Greg. I'm a South Carolina barbecue sauce guy. I'm not a sweet barbecue sauce guy. So if there's a lot of sugar in the barbecue sauce, I'm generally steering clear.
But like a normal human, sour cream, cheese,
Yes.
butter.
No.
Not A1 sauce,
No.
Greg.
I put sour. So when I go to Roadhouse, Jake, which is my go-to place after a Bengals win, pretty much, and all that,
Nice.
I put the sour cream, the cheese, the bacon bits. Then I dribble it with A1 sauce.
Right.
No butter.
No butter.
No butter.
I don't need butter. Dang it!
I mean, what is butter if not saturated fat? I love butter. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But sour cream does a lot of the same things for a potato that butter does.
Yep. Thank you.
No, Greg feels vindicated.
Yeah.
Vindicated. Yeah.
From a food component perspective, right now that we're not talking about the Bengals at all, like it's a high saturated dairy fat thing, and that's kind of what butter is. It's high saturated fat dairy thing. It's just two different kind of forms of the same base component.
We're never going to hit into this now, Jake. Thanks.
I hear all that, and what I get out of it, Greg, is fuck A1.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. Only an idiot would say A1.
Right.
That's...
A1 on a potato.
But back to the Bengals draft.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
DJ Turner, 426.
Oh, that's my guy.
Secondary. Calm down. And Juan Drago. I really wish it was Drago, but I'm having to get used to saying Drago. It's still
Drago
cool.
anyway.
It's like Drago
cool.
with an accent. Drago.
It's a little bit weird because if it's Juan, you would expect the rest of it to have, a Spanish phonetic pronunciation, and it doesn't.
Yeah, but it's whatever. They can do whatever. He can do whatever when he runs 4.26.
That's right.
So just the speed in the secondary, and then we'll add on Jordan Battle. The way they've kind of remade the secondary, and this is something that Iceman and Iceman will give you credit, that a lot of the way they've built the defense in the draft is because they know they're going to pay the offense, which then circles all the way back to why I think, they're going to do everything they can at least before he would leave to get T. Higgins and Jamar Chase their deals on offense.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to try to get those deals done. I mean, and we've talked about it. The worst case for T. Higgins is that he's going to get franchised. But the approach on defense to add speed makes a lot of sense. If there was something that they needed a little bit more of, it was team speed in the secondary. And, Cheeto's fast. Cam Taylor-Britt added last year, fast.
4-3.
Jesse Bates, great range at free safety. Dax should be similar, even if he needs
4-3.
to like he has the physical tools. I don't know if he yet has the level of reaction time that Jesse had. We'll have to see, right? We haven't seen him play as an extended free safety. But I also think, and I've said this, that Nick Scott is the free safety. And the Dax is moving around in more of the Von Bell role, in more of the Von Bell slash Trey Flowers role. Although I have to go listen to this again, but apparently Mike Santagata was on our show talking about how Jordan Battle is going to be in the Trey Flowers role. And in my mind, that I need to talk to him about it, because in my mind that seems like a better fit for Dax Hill and Battle
But
is
he
more
had
of a
a
true
really
safety.
good coverage grade, and like he's very like.
But he's a safety. He's not manning guys up.
But I thought Dax played really well in the preseason, playing that Bates role when Bates was out. Like I almost think he could settle into that really well.
There's a reason he was playing corner for them. It's because he can play really sticky man coverage.
Yes.
And he's got the athletic tools, and I don't know. He's more athletic than Battle. So how they choose to use those guys will be very interesting. But I do think the three safety package makes more sense to me now than it did last year with the personnel they have.
I think we'll see that more this year because of Battle and Dax and Scott, more than we did last year. Like we saw, I think more 2020 and not as much as 2021.
I think it'll be very matchup dependent, because there's going to be situations where, because like taking Mike Hilton off the field doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm. No.
And taking Jermaine Pratt off the field was a big issue last year.
But the only thing with Mike Hilton is, and I love Mike Hilton, but he got burned in the AFC Championship game because of his size. I mean, and that's one thing where I think people took advantage of, because I still remember the touchdown pass where he just dived and he wasn't long enough to get there. I
thought that was Bates on that as well.
No, it was Hilton.
That's Patrick Mahomes too, though, man.
True.
Like that's a good, like he's in a good spot for most quarterbacks.
He was right there.
I do wonder if Dax, if they think long term, if he's not going to just be Bates' replacement straight up and move around, is he going to be Hilton's replacement in a couple years from now? Because like his Michigan tape coming out, his ability to come off the edge, that part of his game to get sacks and pressure on the quarterback reminded me of Hilton as a blitzer.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be hard to replicate. Mike Hilton has a very special talent.
Yeah, he's one of the top slot.
Like when the Bengals signed him and people were saying that before I went and really watched, I was like, what does that even mean? He's a good blitzing slot corner. Like, who cares? And then you see it and you're like, oh, yeah.
It changes games.
You
like
see how
the
that
Tennessee
matters.
game.
Buffalo game that last year when he got Allen.
Didn't they send him like 5 times in a row or something?
The thing is, what I love about it is he's not that big, but he puts his whole body, like the sack he got on Allen, where he kind of like dives like sideways like Spider-Man and it hits him, but he gets him on the ground. I mean, he hits as hard as anybody for his size. Pound per pound, he's got to be one of the hardest hitters, I think, as far as and he gets him on the ground. So that's not only does he get there, he always gets him on the ground too.
I think the future of the Bengals corner position is pretty interesting. Like having 2 second-round guys that are very athletic, I think is great, because Cam Taylor-Britt looks like he can play outside, at least be a starter, right? He might not be Cheeto, and replacing Cheeto is going to be really hard if they choose to do that. But they have at least a couple pieces there. But man, if Cheeto walks, you got Hilton for 1 more year in the slot. You move Juan Drago to the other side, let him play outside. But you're drafting a corner again.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what me and Porkchop said is they're going to have to, because of so much money on the offense that they want to keep Joe, Jamar, and T, that these guys on the defense that they've signed in free agency, they're probably not going to be able to keep all of them. So that's why it started, I think, this year being a heavy defensive draft. I think it's going to be like that again next year, too.
I just want to know if that ever, like, gets where it's not surreal, where it's like, oh my God, it's Jake.
When I'm online, it's less surreal because this is where I exist for most people.
He's a rock star person.
When it's in person, it's a lot. When we did the thing at the Blind Pig,
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, the amount of people that showed up for that event on a Wednesday night, and then Elizabeth Blackburn happened to show up with walked over with Elizabeth and Emily Parker and Seth Tanner when they gave us the Jamar Chase ball to give away. That was a very surreal night for me. That whole Thursday night thing with because I was staying near enough to the stadium. I was walking around that area of the city and, people stopping me for pictures, people at bars. Like I recognize that voice and asking me for pictures and seeing these guys out with their girlfriends or girlfriends getting real excited for their boyfriends to meet somebody who is somebody that was some level of, I've called it micro niche celebrity to these Bengals fans. And it's that part is surreal to me. Because I'm just a dude talking into a microphone about the Bengals on the internet. And then when I go to Cincinnati is when it feels real.
And what about when people come up and ask you for your autograph too, right?
I don't think I've gotten an autograph request yet. I think it's been photos. I don't think anyone's maybe once. I don't think anyone's asked me to sign. My autograph's never going to be worth anything, guys.
You think that I used to work at radio and I thought it was fucking weird, man. People coming at me asking for my autograph because I felt like I ain't nobody. That's fucking weird asking for my autograph.
That is how it feels.
People ask Greg for his autograph all the time. He can't go anywhere.
They sign my cooter.
Yes, that's right.
All the time, yeah.
No, but man, it's just awesome what you're doing, and you have such a good voice for radio and stuff as well. You have a face for radio. No, I'm not going to say it.
I appreciate that.
No, you do. You have a voice that I could easily hear, like Dan Hort. Have you ever thought about going that route with anything and calling games or anything in that arena?
There was a very brief period of time 2 years ago, sometime during COVID, when I would have the game on one monitor and I would just stream on Twitch while the game was happening. I'd be like, all right, I'm at this timestamp. The clock is running. I'm at 8:57 right now, and let people get synced up. And I was trying to do some sort of play-by-play and color stuff. Can't do both. You understand when you start to try to do it, you understand why
there's
they have two people. Because just saying what's happening, you suddenly are not actually paying attention to what's happening. You're saying what's happening, but you don't know what's happening anymore at that point. So you kind of need that color person to be able to pay attention to what's happening and then be able to talk about it. And then while they're talking about it, you can actually then take a second to have that retrospective if you're not trying to get ready for the next play and try to figure out what actually happened on the previous play. I gained a lot of respect for the people that do it. It's I used to give them a lot of shit. Like, how do you mess that up, man?
Well, we still give Tony Romo shit. I think that's fair.
Oh my God, yeah.
Romo, it's so sad because he was so good at it at first.
Yes,
and then he just kind of
I agree.
Something happened. They tried to get him to change. Who Greg Olson's really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And he's out of a job now. Going to be interesting to see how Brady does, right? Because Brady's going to be the lead guy for Fox now. Is that right?
Yeah, but he's taking a year. He's not till next year.
Okay.
Yeah, he's taking a year, I guess, to practice, which is probably smart to try to figure out how to do it.
It's just like the Manning cast. I loved the first year of the Manning cast when it started. I loved hearing Peyton and Eli talk about it. And then they're like, oh no, we're like, it's great. It's still good when you don't care about the game. But trying to watch them talk about the Bengals game, they're not talking about the game at all.
No.
It's brutal. But when they do talk about the game, it's really cool and really, really interesting and really insightful. I really like that kind of stuff, that kind of content. Anybody who knows what I like and the kind of content I like making and why I'm so quiet on Twitter at this time of year is because there's no tape. There's nothing new. I
don't
like
want to
I
get in
like
these endless arguments on Twitter about nothing.
I sometimes find myself sucked in. I try really hard to avoid it, but it also leads to like dead periods for me on Twitter. And like I don't know, I should be producing content year round at this point, and it's pretty hard to do, especially if I ever wanted to do the Twitter subscriber thing, which is a revenue stream I'm not investigating at all.
Joe gets my
Twitch thing.
$5 every month.
Yeah, Joe's getting a lot of people's $5.
Yeah.
He was getting mine too, but I just talked to him. And
Yeah.
Like I've known you this whole time. Why am I
Right.
giving you my?
well, the reason though is because like he wanted me to come into one of the spaces he was doing, one of the subscriber spaces he was doing, and hang out and talk with him, and I couldn't do it. He couldn't get me in unless I
Because you were.
subscribed.
Oh, okay.
And so I subscribed to do it because he couldn't find a way to give me one or whatever for free. And I actually, sorry, Joe, I canceled the subscription for a couple months. I'll be back. I'll be back for football season probably.
Next
But
time
like,
he needs you on Spaces.
well, when you can call a guy,
Right.
But no, the stream
but
stuff.
you also like to
Joe
support
could
your
do the
friends.
Twitch stream stuff and call games. Like I think a lot of people would watch that and be entertained by it.
So on Twitch, if you
it did
stream a game,
okay.
you don't get flagged. You don't get
No, there was no
copyright?
video. There was no video.
Ah.
Yeah,
I
you
would-
have to. You watch it, but you're calling it.
Okay,
like-
I got you.
I might have had like the box score up or something like that.
So
like
show
the-
my
the
age.
Game
I
Pass.
don't do Twitch.
Well, it's the same as this. It's like we're streaming on YouTube or something, right? I
Right.
assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on Facebook apparently. It looks like.
And-
Anyway, it's the
Twitch.
same. It's the same idea, except Twitch exists for video game streaming, which is why I initially had a Twitch account. So, I did stream some video games for a while, and it's people just come in and talk about the Bengals. And
What's
and
the
that's
video
fine.
game? What's the video games now? Because like I'm a teacher, so I'm on summer break, and I'm like, I need a new game. I need a game to play. Is there anything out there that's like?
Not for me
Have
right
you
now.
played the Harry Potter, the Hogwarts thing? Like,
No.
because I got a daughter that's 13, and she's like maybe talking about buying that, but I hate to put down $70-$80 on a game, and it's like I'm just kicked out of my living room when I want to play a game of Madden.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything right now, really. I'm a Diablo 2 guy to age myself. There's still new versions of Diablo 2 that come out and get updated and are pretty cool. And the spiritual successors of Diablo 2, that genre of game is.
That is a messed up thing to say, Brian. I do a damn good job.
Dale's a teacher of human children. What the hell?
Robot children.
Hey, Jake, so I know we were talking draft players. I think these guys know which player I'm going to bring up because I think he was the steal of the draft. What's your take on Yoshi Boss?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
Are you going to take your shirt off every time?
I know I'm not going to do it first. Jake. I don't want to scare Jake off.
And who changed your name to A1 Sucks?
What?
Oh, who the hell? Oh, my God. I didn't even notice. God.
Good job, poor job.
That's what happens when you give me control of the show, Dale.
I'm interested to see him play in the preseason to see where he's at from a football perspective, right? How far along he's come. The clips you see, you can see that he's not there yet from a refinement perspective, from a I know how to play wide receiver perspective, getting in and out of his breaks cleanly, doing the little subtle things that are going to be more efficient with movement, going to create more separation. But you have the athletic tools he has. There's obviously a great chance for him to put something together. But, 6th round pick, older coming into the league, a lot of analytical, quote unquote, reasons to be a little bit skeptical that it does come together. He has a fight to make the roster too. And it's going to be one of the more interesting.
Hey.
That's what I think he's going to be practice squad guys. What I think.
It's going to be one of the more interesting one of the more interesting battles is, do they keep 7 receivers? Do they keep 6 receivers? Which are the guys they keep at the back of that room? Because it remains hard for me to see them moving on from Stanley Morgan Jr., Trenton Irwin, and obviously Charlie Jones is probably wide receiver 4 this year. So if that's 6, is there a 7th? And if there's a 7th, which is the 7th?
He would be the 7th, I think, the favorite to be the 7th before, obviously we get into preseason.
Like Trent Taylor, Kwame Lassiter, guys that were around last year, had some run for this team last year. Regardless, that 7th guy, if they do 7 receivers, probably isn't active. And so he's injury insurance, right? And then,
which I think would be best for him. Like that,
Yes.
probably the
Right.
best.
He needs to learn a route tree, learn the NFL, concentrate on just football.
So, Jake, on my show, rather around the Natty, we have a segment called Lutheranisms where I compare player to food and all that and stuff. And I compared Yoshi Boss to an uncooked ribeye. You don't need to rush the ribeye. You can take your time to cook this thing. You don't need to rush it on the field, get it out there immediately. You can take your time to cook it. But, 6'3", ran like a 4, ridiculous 40, great athlete. I don't think we need to question his smarts or anything. I
like pork shoulder. How about we go pork shoulder instead?
There you go.
All right,
instead of ribeye. Because to me, even if he hits, the upside is not so fine as one of the nicest cuts of a cow that we have in the ribeye. But a pulled pork sandwich is delicious.
From Midwest Barbecue, yes, it is.
God, are they giving you free shit yet?
Yeah, they should.
It's a staple in the barbecue world, right? And he could be a staple solid player if he hits with all that athleticism. But will he ever be like a consistent, dominant, top tier wide receiver? Jamar Chase is your ribeye,
right?
Or your filet mignon, perhaps, and maybe T. Higgins is your ribeye. But that's where, if I were to take a nitpick with your food analogy, I've got another slow cooker, but without quite that level of upside.
All right.
Hey, Brian's very impressed. Chef Brian is very impressed, Jake.
I've talked to Brian quite a bit about food. When I was shopping for, I was going through trying to find cookbooks, man. Cookbooks are a nightmare. There's no such thing as a, that's a good call.
I'm going to believe Brian.
Yeah.
That's clearly out of my price range, I'm going to say.
Never had one. Love trying.
But there's like getting a cookbook that actually fits with the things that you want to cook. It's just, I spent hours at the bookstore, guys, and I couldn't find anything that hit the notes I wanted to hit. They're all great for what they want to do, but they don't do what I want them to do. It's just
well, especially now you can't have like potatoes and stuff.
Right.
Potatoes, spinach, almonds, like a couple of healthy things in there. It's really like sweet potatoes, beets.
They took away just some half of a cookbook.
Yeah. Salt.
You got to be careful what you drink too, right?
Jake,
I mostly just drink water anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's
not
good
a
for
big deal
that's
for
good
me,
for kidney stones.
Yeah.
My cookbooks come on the packaging. It says air fryer 10 minutes.
There you go. Yeah, that's right.
Well, we drink water here, just mix with alcohol a lot.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, here you go, guys. And whenever Chef Brian, we'll all have to support it because we love Brian, man.
We talked about that, didn't we, Brian? Didn't you tell me about that, or is this different? Am I confusing with somebody else? I thought I knew that you were working on a cookbook, but maybe I'm confusing you with somebody else, and I'm sorry if I am.
Just for the record, Midwest Barbecue's bitch has mentioned Rally Around the Natty twice now on the show. Just saying.
That's more than twice, Jeff. You weren't listening.
Oh, I don't pay attention to half what Craig says anyway.
Hey, Jake, whenever you come back to Cincinnati, you got to go there, man. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's it.
They don't do anything. And you guys did talk about it, Brian said.
Good.
You got the right person.
Excellent.
But yeah. So we've kept you about 53 minutes. I know you got to go grocery shopping. So Brian, you're gonna get a message or a text.
Yeah, that's right. What should I buy? Give me a grocery list, Brian. What do I want to eat this week?
No beets, no potatoes.
Spinach, almonds.
Spinach. Hey, spinach is good.
Yes, Crip, we get it. You wrote a cookbook, 89 pages, 89 for 89. We get it, Crip.
That's right. It's 89. Hey, it's 89 degrees outside today.
It is.
Yeah, and I got to go finish pushing on it. So, Jake, tell the people where to find you.
They don't know?
I think they know.
I don't know. I have no idea where to find you.
Oh,
please
unusual. Tell me. At Jake Liscow on Twitter, Locked On Bengals on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast for the podcast. That's it. Canada.
In
Hey.
Canada. But don't show up. He doesn't want you to actually show up.
Oh, I didn't know you're in Canada. I'm gonna start liking Canada again. Hey, my representative from Canada was some piece of shit I worked with. So anytime I can build a good Canadian into the,
I'm not Canadian. I
He
was born.
He moved there.
I was born outside of Chicago. Lived there for 2 weeks before I moved to Cincinnati as a 2-week-old. Lived in Cincinnati as a kid until college, and then I haven't been back to live as an adult. But moved to Canada about 8 years ago, west coast of Canada.
So is that good enough for you, Pork Chop?
that's good. Hey, I'm trying to find pieces to. I'm like, how the fuck can I hate a whole country because it's one dickhead?
Yeah.
So
most of the people I've met up here are pretty good people.
I got Pam Anderson. That makes me like Canada a lot more. And now I got fucking Jake Liscow. You and Pam are keeping it together for me, Jake.
Pam Anderson lives pretty close to me.
Hey,
Whoa!
I might come visit. Can I? You got a bedroom
Wait,
I can
Pam
stay
Anderson?
in?
Also, Zach Galifianakis lives on an island.
All
very
right.
close to here.
I like Zach Galifianakis
That's
too.
three.
He's okay.
That's three.
Hey,
Yeah, there's some others too. Well,
I mean,
Ryan
this guy's
Reynolds,
he's
Vancouver guy.
He's a real
You guys
dickhead.
like
It's
Ryan
hard.
Reynolds?
I got to build a lot of people to connect me back to Canada, and I like maple syrup too. You know,
Yeah.
What about Ryan Reynolds? You guys like Ryan Reynolds?
I do like Ryan Reynolds.
Who doesn't like Ryan
Right.
Reynolds?
Super likable guy.
Yeah.
It's Pride Month, so
Hey, and
if I was gonna have sex with a dude, I would hope it'd be Ryan Reynolds.
I'd like Tom Green too.
Yeah, Tom Green's hilarious.
Yeah.
Rush.
All right, guys.
I mean-
Yep.
All right, Jack. See you, brother.
Take care, buddy.
Appreciate it. Have a good
Thanks for
rest of your
coming on, buddy.
Friday. See
You
you
too.
guys.
See ya.
What a king! What a
Yeah.
king!
Damn, where the hell does he live? We need to go visit. He's got a whole bunch
West
of
Coast,
stuff.
West Coast to Canada.
He's
It's like
yeah.
above fucking Oregon.
Yeah, well, I know where he lives. I meant what, like this. You need to go visit his town. Like I know where the hell he lives. He just told
Canada
us.
is that country above the
It's
United
one-
States.
I understand that,
North.
pork chop.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Oh. Hey, I think they got hookers in Canada.
Oh God,
Like I think it's legal.
dude, you and Four Locos and hookers would not.
Is that how you judge everything?
Pretty much.
So Amsterdam,
Not everything, but-
Vegas, and maybe Canada are your favorite places.
These are great vacation destinations.
Oh God,
Hey, if we go out there, I'll show you guys.
I'm
you know?
afraid we'll probably go to jail.
We're not gonna go to jail. You think it's gonna be? Oh, it could be. It could be like fucking.
That could be now.
We could be. Hey, we could be reenacting The Hangover, right?
Yeah, we'll get you some
Hey,
Four Locos.
especially if we find Zach Galifianakis.
Yep.
I'm damn. Hey, if we do, I'm damn sure fucking maxing out my credit card, and there's gonna be a Bengal tiger when we wake up.
What do tigers dream of?
Yeah. I
What
don't
the
know.
fuck was that?
That's the tiger song they sing. That tiger's sleeping.
Yeah.
You seriously don't remember the movie? Oh my
Yeah, I
god.
remember the movie, but that was a horrible impersonation of it.
Okay, like you could do better.
No.
That's right. Shut up.
So we're going to end this thing, or it's going to sit and stare at each other?
I don't know.
I gotta cut grass, unfortunately.
All right.
I gotta.
I'm
cut
gonna
a
go have a
toad.
heat stroke with my fat ass, but we got another show coming up at 8. Bengals Whitney's joining, so
Ooh.
Is
I gotta
Derek-
go to
is
that
Derek
correct
gonna
if
place.
be
you
there?
actually want to see someone attractive on this show,
right here.
tune in at 8. Bengals Whitney will be here,
What the hell?
and maybe Derek and maybe Joe.
Derek's on the fucking road, isn't he?
He's in Florida right now. He
Wow.
made it. He did that drive through Georgia, which if you guys have ever done it,
Oh, Georgia's the longest state ever.
It's just trees for 4-5 hours. 500
And then you hit
mile
traffic in Atlanta.
stretch. It sucks.
Sucks. Atlanta sucks.
Appreciate you guys tuning in. Jake Liscow, great as always.
Hey, I
Midwest
actually got shows
Barbecues,
next week.
bitch. You didn't get a lot of questions in there. I was trying to, and every time I'd say, Greg, you got a question, Iceman would jump in. So then I started cutting off Iceman, and then it just, no, it went well, I thought.
Yeah.
I actually was quiet. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's
I had
just, Jake does his damn thing, and it's getting questions in there, and obviously I'm trying, I would have got more of your questions in. I've seen more comments than questions in the chat today, so I didn't really know what to pop in. But We love you guys, and hopefully we'll see you back at 8
p.m. Eastern time.
I got a show too.